Hi guys, my name is Philipper Sumera and welcome to my channel. Let me take you to St. Augustine, Savannah, Georgia. So sit back and relax and watch the whole video. Thank you and have a good day.
Folks, that's where the old Olivet Methodist Church used to stand at, right there. Once Flagler took possession of the land, he had the church torn down. This building in front right, you see the lower letters, home of the Laettner Museum, in the back. Otto Laettner was a very wealthy man. He would like to buy up and collect other people's stuff. And he did that for his entire lifetime all around the world. And then he housed it all inside his Laettner Museum. Again, folks, all kinds of artifacts, antiques, things you never thought existed on families out here too. Not to mention, you're also going to see the indoor swimming pool and some of the entertainment of the hotel. Folks, this is the absolute best museum of all the St. Augustine. Mr. Laettner has now passed away. He's buried in the courtyard next to the koi pond inside of him. The front of this building today, the upper letters, is the City Hall of the St. Augustine, folks. Folks, I live right here in St. Augustine. Every month in the mail, I get a beautiful picture of the entire front of this building in the mail every single month. Yes, that is a true story, folks. It's absolutely beautiful. I'm going to tell you in the story right now, folks. I don't like it one bit. That's right. And down to one sheet of paper. It's a beautiful one, Bill, but I still don't like it. California album cover. It is not the same building, but that's what it makes me think of. I'm an old geezer stuck back in the 1970s. The trolley only does 22 miles an hour. I'm still stuck late on the fast lane. There we go. Back in motion. Let's go back to the left side of the trolley. Flag the second hotel. The Alcazar Hotel, the one with entertainment. We'll talk about the entertainment in a moment. But first, notice the construction of it too. It's also the Ford concrete construction. Flagler liked it. Then when Flagler had this as a hotel, the rooms rolled up here in the front area. The entertainment was in the back. The entertainment consisted of Russian and Turkish baths and spas. He had archery. He had bowling. He had billiards. He had a gymnasium. He had a ballroom. He had a casino. He had at that time the world's largest indoor swimming pool. Above the pool were two balconies and he had two orchestras. One orchestra will play when the second one takes a break. When the first one takes a break, the second one jump in and start playing right away. To your front left, you have this round rotunda sticking out, folks. This is part of the shallow end of that world's largest indoor swimming pool. The other side of the building we cannot see. There's another rotunda that looks just like this sticking out the other side, part of the deep end. The pool, the entertainment, and everything Mr. Laettner collected over his entire lifetime. Yes, you can see all of that in the Laettner Museum. It's beautiful. Now, if you're not a museum person, but you still want to see swimming pool, it's too late today, folks. It's only open 21 minutes. You see the door on your left that says the historic Alcazar Pool Cafe. Look on the door, it says exit only. Another day between 11 and 3. Go down the other side of the building, you'll see the yellow door next to the rotunda with the canopy and the sign, the historic Alcazar Pool Cafe. It's only open between 11 and 3, a lunchtime menu, which is going to close in 20 minutes now. If you go there to have a meal another day, folks, the tables are inside the deep end of the swimming pool. You're looking up at the balconies where the orchestras used to play at. It's absolutely beautiful. Folks, if you do the museum, you're going to come out on one of those balconies and look down into the swimming pool. Very nice, folks. The parking lot to your left, Flagler had tennis courts. He's thinking about everybody. The building to your front left, the taller portion of the building, that then was the Bicycle Training Academy. And you're probably all saying, what? That's right, folks. Back in those days, those antique bikes where the big wheel was almost as tall as the average human, with that little teeny wheel in the back, they were called high wheels. Folks, they were very difficult to ride, and they were very painful when you crashed on them. That's hopefully where you will learn how to ride them. There was no guarantee. You learned it or you didn't. That was it. We'll talk more hotels later in the tour. But we're coming into the Lincolnville section of St. Augustine. To your left here, coming up, Dr. Robert Haling's house, the first black dentist in the entire state of Florida. At one point, he was the local leader of the NAACP. Historical sign in his yard right now. The next white house with the brown trim on is Cora Tyson's house. Folks, she's 103 years old. Lovely lady. You'll make a 103-year-old lady very happy. Folks, when she's on the front porch, which I don't think owns her car. That's why she still drives at 103 too, believe it or not. You want to see her make a 103-year-old lady very happy? When she's on the front porch, which she's not, drive a fully loaded trolley in front of her house. Folks, you want to see a lady smile ear to ear? She'll wave to every single person on the trolley. She loves it. Makes me feel great when it happens. Back in the day, her house and the house beyond hers are both boarding houses. They would house the marchers of the civil rights movement whenever they were down here for any business. And notice the two sides of her yard. The left one has a picture of Martin Luther King on it. Yes, she did meet him personally way back in the 60s when the marchers were staying down here. You'll notice both sides of the street Victorian homes. The largest number of Victorian homes here in St. Augustine are right here in Lincolnville. The stop sign up in front of us is Martin Luther King Jr. Avenue. Martin Luther King Jr. marched up and down a whole lot of streets across this great big country of ours. Well, folks, he only marched up or down 2 that actually bear his name. And yes, this is one of them right here in front of us in St. Augustine. The other one, you can probably guess, his hometown, Atlanta, Georgia. To your front right, one of those beautiful Victorian homes, completely restored into a restaurant called La Nouvelle. You can dine on the front porch, you can dine inside the house, and the garden area outside when the weather's nice. Every day of the week but tomorrow, they're closed on Mondays. La Nouvelle, check it out, very nice. I recommend it. I got more to talk about, more restaurants there I'm about for. Dr. Martin Luther King, come up with the PA here. There we go.
Talk with many people, some of whom are considered some of the very outstanding leaders and people of our nation. I believe that I was uttering the truth when I said to them that the people of Florida and those that have come in from other communities and their allies in the white community are determined to march the streets of this city until the walls of segregation come tumbling down.
There you go, Dr. Martin Luther King. I give you on the right side a moment to be the St. Benedict de Moore, the Catholic Church, the first African-American parish of the Catholic Diocese here in St. Augustine. Next brick on your front right, the last remaining brick schoolhouse still standing in St. Augustine today. And to your left over here, the St. Paul AME Church. Dr. Martin Luther King did leave rallies out of the church, and yes, he did march right up and down the street we're on right now, one of only 2 of his name in the entire country. To your front right, the little white bus, the light tan colored building, South 11, the Lincolnville Museum of Culture. Inside of there, they do have one of the pianos that Ray Charles used to play. Yes, he has history here too. We'll talk about him a bit. They also have the fingerprint card of Dr. Martin Luther King when he got arrested here in St. Augustine back in the 60s for protesting. Stop 11, Lincolnville Museum of Culture Center. As always, wait for the bell. Back down as he's on ladder, folks. No, we on and off, then we're back in motion. Please want to see them. Back to your right, the top centered round top window. Once you clear that one palm tree, you'll see the writing on the building. It was the former Excelsior High School. This was the first black public high school in St. Augustine. Now, well ahead in front of us, you'll see the second yellow pedestrian sign. To the right of that is another church. It'll be St. Cyprian's Church. It's the oldest church building here in Lincolnville. It's starting to come into view on your right in just a moment. It's a very beautiful church. It's one of only 9 Episcopal churches in the entire country that was specifically built for black people. But everybody's welcome today. It's on your right side right now. It's going to be on your left because I'm making a right turn right here. And folks, once I make this right turn, I'm coming to the first of 2 quiet zones on the trolley. Once I turn right, I'm not allowed to speak on the PA for the next minute and 15 seconds. Folks, you can tell by the way I've been running my mouth, that's an eternity. I apologize. I will speed the trolley up, and as Arnold said, I'll be back. Church on that, I gotta be quiet, I'll be back, folks. I'll speed it up. Alright folks, I'm back. Here at St. Augustine, we're home of the world-famous Florida School for the Deaf and the Blind. It's about a half a mile north of the jail on San Marco Avenue. The most famous person to attend there was Ray Charles. He attended between the ages of 7 and 14. He learned to read Braille, read music, he played several instruments, and he told the whole world he had Georgia on his mind. But folks, it all started for him right here in Florida. And yes, he did play some of the clubs right here in Lincolnville as a young man. Also here in St. Augustine, we're home of the first free black established settlement of what is now today the United States. That's right back in the early 1700s. If any slaves were to escape from the plantations north of here from the British, If they made their way far enough south here to St. Augustine, the King of Spain would grant them all freedom upon two conditions. One, you become Catholic. Two, if you're a man, you join the military. 1738, there was enough of these free slaves here in St. Augustine that Fort Mose was built. Fort Mose State Park on the northern side of the city up on Route 1. It was the first line of defense to the northern side of the city. These former slaves are here in St. Augustine with their freedom. The men are now in the military. They now have a gun in their hands. If their former plantation owners were coming this far south looking for them, and if they met their former plantation owners face to face, oh yes, they were allowed to shoot them. Nice revenge for the ones who did have that opportunity. Okay, I got another recommendation restaurant you left. The St. Augustine Fish Camp Restaurant. It is awesome. We're still on Sunday weekend, so it might be crowded. Keep that in mind, but awesome. See the sailboat mast you left? This is the industrial section of St. Augustine. Back then, that was home of the boat wharfs, the fishing wharfs, and also the shrimp packing industries. And buildings here to the left, we have warehouses and lumber yards. And the big building in front of us is one building with two sides on it. The shorter side closest to us was the original home of the St. Augustine Gas and Light Company. Later in time, Florida Power and Light was in here, but folks, as you can see now, it's our distillery. Whiskey, rum, gin, and vodka. That's our next stop. We'll go around the building and come back around. But the northern side of the building, folks, if you look straight up, you will see it was the original ice plant. Now, folks, back in the days, we did not have refrigerators or freezers in our houses. Back then, if you were lucky, you had a metal insulated box. And they would deliver a big block of ice to your home for business to keep your food cool for a couple of days. Well, there's the term, the ice box. But folks, this is still called the ice plant today. But it's now the restaurant called the ice plant. The door now, it's dark inside, but they're open right now. Very nice restaurant. I'm recommending this too, folks. So I got another 8 more restaurants to talk about in the store, folks. But we're going to stop on the south side of the building, the St. Augustine Distillery. Now they do have some tours and tastings in there. You might want to check one of them out. I do notice when I pick up people after they take one of those tours, they always come out a lot happier than they were before they went in. This will be stop 12, St. Augustine Distillery. There's always wait for the bell, back down the seasonal ladders, the grab bars and arrows. Folks, it's 5 o'clock somewhere. There we go. Stop 12, St. Augustine Distillery. There we go. All right. The ones that are hopping off, thank you so much. Have a good day. Don't hold back on the tour. When you come back out, guess what? Trolleys every 15 minutes will be your designated driver. The last trolley today is scheduled to point here about 5:15. Don't push it to 5:14. Come here about 5:05, just to be safe. Because if that last trolley is empty, he or she is trying to catch a trolley in front of them to go home early. All right, folks. See, we got a Model Land Company and hospital. Now, the people who are rolling the cigars, their production would go down when they would start gossiping. So that's when they would hire men to entertain them by reading to them. Books, newspapers, and magazines. Doesn't sound like much fun, does it? I mean, also some of the men could play an instrument or two to help entertain the women while they work. They say all the cigar factories combined together produced about 5 million cigars every single year. But over time, St. Augustine lost out the cigar industry to the Ybor City section of Tampa over time. Tampa has always been and always will be a larger seaport than Riverville here in St. Augustine. Our next stop is the big building in front right with the balcony on top. That's stop number 13, the San Sebastian Winery. Now there are tours and tastings there too, folks. You have yourself the one of them. If you do not drink alcohol or have family members under 21, that's okay too. They serve great juice if you're still interested in taking that tour. And that will be stop number 13. That'll be the San Sebastian Winery. Now they're working on the construction of the parking lot, so I can make this little jet in right here. This will be stop number 13, San Sebastian Winery. Wait for the bell, and then back down the season wire if you're going to exit. And it's 5 o'clock somewhere, folks. Now we got the double here. Oh, you don't need that designated driver when you come back out this, right? All right, have a good day, folks. Come back and see us again. Thank you. There you go. All right. Once again, welcome, folks. My name is Troy. Hold on to everything. Do not let it fall off the trolley. I am not allowed to stop it picked up. And I am now your designated driver. How about that? Let's go across the street to the right side, folks. That building there is the St. Augustine Police Department. Nothing historical to talk about the police department, but we don't know what it's location. location, though, is historical. That was the site of the first Florida East Coast Hospital. The hospital is now long gone. That's the police station built today. It was Flagler who had the hospital built. If you're an employee of Flagler back then, you had free health care. As long as you went right there. If you went someplace else, then you were on your own. If you wanted to insure the rest of your family, it was 50 cents a month. That's right, $6 a year for Flagler care. Whether you had 2 or 3 kids or 15 or 20 kids, $6 a year. Come on, folks. I spent more than that just for breakfast for myself at McDonald's this morning. Gee, you're telling me 2 Egg McMuffins would have covered my entire family for the entire year of medical care? Which cross street you left, the first 3 identical buildings called the triplets. They were the original offices of the Florida East Coast Railroad, and now the dormitories of the Flagler College. The winery used to be the record house of the Florida East Coast Railroad. It's now the winery. The train tracks used to run right down the back side of these buildings. They have now diverted the train tracks to the western side of town. And the train station used to be right behind the triplets. Flagler's got his hotels in St. Augustine. He wants his wealthy friends from up north to come down and visit him. Back then, they could take the railroad from up north all the way down to Jacksonville, and that's where the tracks stopped. In order to get from Jacksonville here to St. Augustine back then, you had to take either a steamship out in the ocean or horse and buggy. Both long, uncomfortable, and tedious. There was a small gauge railroad here in St. Augustine back then. Flagler bought the railroad and immediately had his employees strip the tracks right out of the ground. He then standardized the gauge of the tracks, and then he hooked his tracks up to Jacksonville, and now some of your friends from up north can take one train from up north right here to St. Augustine. Flagler was not done with the railroad, folks. He continued on south. Ormond Beach, Apollo Beach, Miami, oh yes. He even had his employees build bridges all the way down to Florida Keys. That's right, folks. 1912, the first train pulled into Key West, Florida. Key West back then was a big stopping off point for shipping and refueling in the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. Flagler wanted the railroad down there so he could transport goods and materials to and from the mainland faster than what the boats could do it, but also haul passengers for tourism. Another reason Flagler wanted that train down there, he's a smart man. He likes money. He knows what's going on down in Panama. The Panama Canal is well under construction. He knows it's going to open up very soon. He knows once that happens, the ships on the Pacific side can come through the Panama Canal, into the Caribbean, up into the Gulf of Mexico, and stop at Key West for trade. More money for Flagler. Key West is the closest seaport in the United States to the Panama Canal. By 1935, a severe hurricane destroyed the southern portion of the Keys. That's the end of the railroad. The tracks are washed out. One of the trains is even laying on the ground. The folks think about it, 1935, cars are now running. The train bridges survived the storm. They converted the train bridges into car bridges. And folks, there was a lot of problems, a lot of modifications, a lot of deterioration. Over time, they just knocked them all down and built brand new car bridges. The overseas highway today was one. But there are still 3 of the original railroad bridges still standing down the Keys today. The Bahia Honda Railroad Bridge, the Long Key Viaduct, and the original 7-mile bridge are still standing down there today. Folks, if you're familiar with the movie True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Jamie Lee Curtis, toward the end of that movie, that chase on that long bridge with the limo, folks, that's the original 7-mile bridge that's still standing down the Keys today. That was Flagler's biggest dream of his life to get that train down to Key West. He paid for it all with his own money, but he got off that first train in 1912. He told his wealthy friends he could now die happy. He did that 1 year later in 1913 at the age of 83. Over the right side, remember Franklin Smith, the guy who helped out Flagler with Ford County Reconstruction? Smith and Flagler agreed that St. Augustine should be a tourism town, and Mr. Smith spent between $1 to $3 million building the Castle Hotel tunnels. Folks, it opens up in about 2 days to 2 weeks before Flagler opens up in his Ponce Hotel on your left. Well, folks, Mr. Smith is not a businessman, and eventually the hotel goes bankrupt and the Flagler offers him $325,000 for everything. Smith is in such dire straits, he accepts that he never finally recovers, and now Flagler owns all 3 hotels. To your left, to your right, and front right. And there you go, Flagler owns all 3 hotels. After Flagler passes away, the building becomes the St. John's County Courthouse. Later in town, they moved the county courthouse about 3 miles north of the Route 1 Lewis Speedway. This becomes a hotel again, and they take back the original name, the Casa Monica Hotel, what it is now today. Okay, folks, we're going to go backward in time. Remember, St. Augustine was originally a Spanish settlement. The King of Spain wanted to have all Spanish settlements around the world have a town plan. Every town plan would have 4 requirements to it. One was right here to your left. The governor's house to govern the town plan. Another requirement for every Spanish town plan would be an open plaza, like you see in your front left, for the gathering of the townsfolk on the town plan. Another requirement would be a Catholic church. Remember, the Spanish, they were Catholic. To your left is our cathedral basilica. I will talk about that when we get over there in just a few moments. And the final requirement for every Spanish town plan will be an open marketplace for trade and business. Now, folks, that's the open rectangular building at your front left. It's right in that building where the Spanish introduced the standardization of weights and measures to the New World. Most remember the Spanish were here in Florida well before the British ever got pregnant. Business, trade, and yes, folks, even slave trading did go on from time to time, right there in that open mill to your left. Look over the Belgian left, there he is, the statue of Ponce de Leon, actual size, 4'11". That's right, folks, if you ever Google his height someday, that's the number you're probably going to get. I won't guarantee it, that's the number you're probably going to get. There is some evidence out there he might have been as tall as 5'6" to 5'7". Still shorter than a lot of men. Folks, notice the side view. You can see he would wear heeled boots and put a tall hat on his head to make himself appear to be a little bit taller than he really was. So there you go, that proves it right there, folks. The short man syndrome started all the way back in the 1500s with Ponce de Leon, well before Napoleon. Folks, if you'd like to take a camera shot, get your camera ready on the left. Get your cameras right on the left if you like a camera shot. Beautiful picture on your left. As I pull forward, look down at Cathedral Place, you can see the steeple of the cathedral down the end, the Ponce de Leon Hotel. Beautiful picture, I had that in my house. Folks, after my wife passed away, I have decorated the entire inside of my house with St. Augustine landmarks. So tonight, you're invited to come to my house tonight. You're going to see more of St. Augustine in my house than you will see in St. Augustine. That's right, folks. It's decorated all over the place. To your right side is a flagpole, the circle, that's Anderson Circle. Dr. Andrew Anderson donated that land to St. Augustine for the people of St. Augustine who participated in World War I. To your left is the plaza, folks. The plaza on your left is the oldest public space in the entire country. You see a couple of cannons on your left. There are 6 cannons total. This is 2 of the 6. All the cannons on the plaza today, they were all working cannons back in the day in our fort at Castillo de San Marcos. They have all seen battle. To your right is stop number 14, the Cathedral Basilica. The Cathedral Basilica is home of the oldest Catholic congregation in the nation, but it's also the oldest congregation of any denomination in the nation. It is now a basilica. Back in 1976, Pope Paul VI proclaimed this a basilica due to its historical significance. This is stop 14, Cathedral Basilica. Right side only after the bell, back down as he's allowed. Stop 14, Cathedral Basilica, ladies. Folks, the original jail used to stand on the other side of that white building. It's long gone. That's where it's still there. When Flagler broke ground for his Ponce de Leon Hotel in front of us, he didn't realize that the jail was right across the street. He's already broken ground. He can't stop now. And he didn't realize the jail was right across the street. And as soon as he realized that, folks, he's not going to have that. He went straight to City Hall, and he told City Hall to move their jail. City Hall told Flagler, we already have a jail, and we don't have the money to build another one. Folks, for the one who are already on, what I've been telling you, Flagler's one of the 3 wealthiest men on the planet. He told City Hall, don't worry about that jail. I'm going to pay for every bit of it. But since I'm going to pay for every bit of it, there's 2 things about that jail that I want all of you on City Hall to know about. The people at City Hall said, what's that? Flagler said, I want it to be about a mile to a mile and a half north of town. I don't want it to look like a jail. That jail's still standing today. Back at stop number 1, you can take tours through that jail every 15 to 20 minutes. It is an awesome tour, folks. This is Flagler's all 3 hotels we spoke about. For the people who just got on, we've already passed this portion of the tour. Now coming your front right down the tramway above it is another church. It'll be the Trinity Episcopal Parish. It's the oldest Protestant church in the entire state of Florida. What's this? This one car holding everything in there. What's going on here? He's going to go forward in this car. Alright. Always wait for him. To your right, the Trinity Episcopal Parish, the oldest Protestant church in the entire state of Florida. Folks, if you get close, look at the date on the sign of the church art. You see that date is 1821. Folks, remember Florida was under Spanish rule? 1821, the date you see on the sign, is when Florida became a U.S. territory. Folks, that's when we got the freedom of religion. Oh, we got a whole lot of other freedoms too, but for this story, we got the freedom of religion. As soon as they got that freedom, they started holding services outside as soon as they did so. They did not start building the church until 1825. It's still the oldest Protestant church in the entire state of Florida. Okay, if you like camera shots, get your cameras ready on the right side. Get your cameras ready on the right side. The yellow sign with the pedestrian sign with the arrow to the right is a side street called Abilene Street. Folks, Abilene Street on your right is the oldest street in the entire country. Also home of the Spanish Military Health Museum. A couple of shops, a couple of years. That's the oldest street in the country. Remember, folks, the Spanish were here in Florida well before the British ever showed up in America. The oldest street in the country, Abilene Street. Abilene, Spain is the hometown of Pedro Menendez, the one who founded San Jose. We'll talk about him later in the tour. That's right, folks. Remember when the British showed up and they migrated over to the Appalachian Mountains and they started migrating across the Great Plains? Folks, all of this was already here. That's right, folks. And right straight to the windshield is the St. Augustine Municipal Marina. We do have 4 tours that come out every day. I will talk about them after we leave the Marina stop, unfortunately. Where the marina stop us and turn right is on the right side of the trolley across the street from the marina. So you have to cross the street to get there. I have another restaurant recommendation right in front of us. Is O.C. White's Restaurant. Beautiful garden area to eat outside, or you can eat inside of the beautiful Colonial Coquina building. This will be stop 15 Marina. Right side only if you're going to exit. Wait for the bell. Back down to the line. Stop number 15 Marina. Looks like these people might have just found this out just right. Stop 15 Marina. Alright. Now the first one is the tight one. You're going to hop in at the tight, the hot one. Yeah, that's the best answer box. Answer box, take it up. He blends in is the twin mast scooter Freedom Tour. Take a tour of that. Now the Victory 3 sightseeing tour is a little white double-decker narrated cruise. He parks right in front of the Black Raven. He's on a tour right now. We might actually get to see him. All right, I don't know. He might be on the other side of the bridge right now. Let's go to your front left horizon, the St. Augustine Lighthouse. Completed back in 1874, 165 feet tall, 219 steps up, 219 steps back down. There's no elevator on the lighthouse. Do take that into consideration. Yes, it is a pretty stringent climb for some people. If you ever make it to the top someday, look to your northwest. You're going to see our beautiful skyline here in St. Augustine. And you'll see the beautiful churches and the beautiful hotels that I've been running my mouth about on the tour. But you're also going to see the Bridge of Lions, the fort, the Great Cross. While you're up there, look north and south up and down the coastline. And folks, if you go up in the lighthouse on a crystal clear day, you can see the power plant all the way out in Palatka from the lighthouse on a crystal clear day. A lot of flatness, storms and fog and stuff to the west here now. Won't be able to see it now. Up there in your front right, stop 16 is the oldest house. It's not the oldest house in the country. It's the oldest house here in St. Augustine. It was 1702. Governor Moore and his men of Carolina attacked St. Augustine. They were British. We were still Spanish here in Florida. With that attack, they burnt down the entire town down to the ground. Every single thing standing in St. Augustine was burnt down to the ground except the fort, the only thing standing. We'll talk more about that in our next time. The White House on the right side. This is the oldest house still standing today that was built after that attack. Take tours to the house and also walk its grounds. Stop 16 on this house. Looks like nobody on the home. We're back in motion. Officially too. If there's anybody on the trolley who has ever driven tractor trailers, you're probably going to be cringy here in a moment when you see me attempt to make this turn. But this is an articulated vehicle, meaning that the wheels turn on all three cars when I turn the steering wheel up front. And it makes this turn very easily. Now, if I was pulling a 53-foot trailer, like the trailer trucks you see out on the interstate, and if I attempted to make that turn back there with a 53-foot trailer, folks, no way. We would have had a big mess all piled up back there. Thank goodness for articulated vehicles. If you're going to come to the oldest house another day and time without the trolley, the parking lot here in front of us, this is the free parking of the oldest house. Straight to the windshield in front of us across the street, the White House, the Chelsea House. Some people, and yes folks, even some of our very own trolley drivers will tell you that's a Sears catalog house. Well, some historians have done some research on this house in front of us and found out it's not a Sears catalog house. It's a replica of one of the houses that you could have bought out of the Sears catalog. And that's what things that got confused on this one particular house. That's right, if you're not Hispanic, guys, but I'm walking around town from time to time in full uniform. Folks, we do want to thank them for their service to our country. And folks, if there's anybody on this trolley who's current, former, retired military, I want to thank you for your service to our country because you are awesome. Thank you so much, Doctor. You're awesome. Okay, folks, look at this stop sign bouncing around. Left turn on the right side of the trolley. Right in front of you, the two seawalls, the close one, the little one, or the old one, whichever one you want to call it. The last project built by slaves here in St. Augustine. Later in time, the city put in the larger wall to help protect the original wall. With the larger wall being a little taller, it gives us a little bit better protection for our streets here in St. Augustine whenever we do have storms. To your front right is our bridge, opened up in 1927. Then it was called the Matanzas River Bridge. For obvious reasons, that is the Matanzas River. But the bridge is not called that anymore. We'll talk about that in a moment. The bridge spans 1,545 feet across the Matanzas River, which is also part of the Intercoastal Waterway. The bridge is now called the Bridge of Lions. Folks, remember that name I spoke about on the tour, Dr. Andrew Anderson? He donated 2 career marble lions to the city of St. Augustine. And the city of St. Augustine put those lions at the base of the bridge on this side of the river, one on each side of the street of the bridge. Unfortunately, they are not there right now. I'll talk about that in a minute. But they are Carrara marble, the same quarry as Michelangelo's statue of David, Carrara marble. I'm going to go off tour for 1 minute here. Michelangelo's statue of David used to stand outside of Florence, Italy. They have now put it inside for protection. Outside where there was one to stand at, they put an exact identical replica of Michelangelo's statue of David. Exact scale and size and a material Carrara marble. Folks, there are plenty of replicas of that statue all around the world. There's only 2 on the planet. They're exact scale and size and a material Carrara marble. Again, the one I just spoke about in Florence, Italy. That's right, folks. The other one, it's standing right here in St. Augustine. We'll talk about that a little more than 2 stops from now. Now, come up to the bridge light here, folks. The bridge lions. The lions are now long gone because they're replacing the seawall. You see the construction cranes. So they took the lions away so they do not get damaged during reconstruction. If this is your first time in St. Augustine and you do not know what they look like, just Google the bridge of lions in St. Augustine, Florida. If you know what they look like and if you'd like to have a pair of them in your house, go to the Casa Monica Hotel, the Grand Bohemian Gallery. Carrara marble replicas are about so long on the pedestals, up on the pedestals. They're over $300 to talk about. Let's start up to the left, the white one, the Casarena, upscale Mexican. Awesome. Oh, you're not up for upscale Mexican? How about the next one? Harry, seafood. Awesome. Oh, you're not up for seafood? How about the very next one, the Saint, Italian. Awesome. That's right. And that's Sunday. It's still on the weekend, folks, so somebody's going to be crowded tonight. Now, I got the next house is toward that. It's part of the Hilton Hotel. Inside the Hilton Hotel. Hold up. Hold up. Okay. All right, there we go. Make sure I got these. People don't know these lights. I was going to stop. Okay, you come on up. Inside the Hilton Hotel is the Applebee's restaurant. Now, your front has the white columns here. Nero's Waterfront Cafe, the Teeny Martini Bar, awesome. 2 doors beyond that, the cream-colored columns is Meehan's Irish Pub, Oyster Bar and Restaurant, awesome. And let's go up to the corner, the white one with the 3 lit-up lanterns hanging out front. That's the River and Forth. They're all great restaurants, folks. It's still Sunday, it's still weekend. They might be crowded, but check out what you want. Hey, look out to your front right, folks. You're looking out to the Atlantic Ocean through our inlet. And straight to the windshield, here it is, the most famous site in all of St. Augustine, our fort, the Castillo de San Marcos. It's now part of the National Park Service. It's made entirely out of coquina. Between 400,000 and 500,000 blocks of coquina. All that coquina was quarried right across the water over on Interstate Island. Now, folks, when coquina's first quarried, it's too wet and too soft to build with. They had to let it all sit out and dry. Anywhere between 1 to 3 years. Oh, that's a long time to wait. But I'm glad they waited. They waited just long enough for the coquina to be pliable enough to work with. It was still very soft. Folks, this is stop number 17, the Fort, the Castillo de San Marcos. There's the bell, exiting back down as you load. Now, they say coquina hardens harder than concrete over time, folks. If somebody had a cannon today and started a cannonball on the wall today at that spot, it would crumble apart today because it's been drying now for 331. It wasn't that, folks. But every now and then they got something that would fit. After all those days attacking St. Augustine, Governor Moore and his men are getting frustrated and not doing the damage they're hoping. That's when they come ashore, and that's when they burn down the entire town down to the ground. Every single thing standing in St. Augustine was burnt down to the ground except the fort, the only thing standing. Folks, even today, here in St. Augustine, we don't have anything today in St. Augustine that predates 1702 due to that attack, except the fort itself. They started working on it. He did have the luxury of these having one. But with 16 total people living in the house, him, his wife, and 14 kids in one bathroom, well, folks, you know the trees and the bushes still got watered quite frequently on the outside. After Mr. Ward passes away, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Marjorie Kinnins Rowlands purchased this. She opens this up as a hotel. She's famous for the Yearling, Cross Creek, South Down Under, and others. And when she had this place as a hotel, a gentleman named Robert Ripley stayed there multiple times, and boy, did he love this place so much. Every single time he stayed here, he did his best to try to talk her into selling to him, and she would never do it. Unfortunately, over time, Mr. Ripley passed away. Later in time, Miss Rollins was willing to sell, and folks, he sold this to Ripley's estate and heirs. Yes, folks, that's how this became the very first Ripley's, right here in the world, right here. Very first one. It was Ripley's idea to do the Ripley's, believe it or not. Unfortunately, he passed away before he ever did it. It was his estate and heirs who did it after he passed away. He has never set foot in the Ripley's again. It happened after he passed away. But he has been in this building back when it was the hotel. And this will be stop number 18. This will be Ripley's Believe it or not. As always, wait for the bell. Back down is using the ladders to grab bars and handrails. Stop number 18, Ripley's, believe it or not. There we go. Looks like nobody on or off. Then we're back in motion. Please maintain. Let's go back to the left side of the trolley here. You're going to see a hollowed out 1900-year-old redwood tree trunk that's laying down on its side. Somebody hollowed it out and then made it into a 4-room tiny house. It doesn't look like the tiny houses you will see on HGTV. You can walk through it during business hours. That's what Ripley was famous for. Very unusual and odd items. That's too big to go through the front door. That's why it's outside. Look to your straight right. Look at these tall bushes. Look up top of the palm trees. The head and the shoulders of a statue. Folks, that is one of only 2 exact identical replicas of Michelangelo's statue of David. Both exact scale and size and a material for a marble. Plenty of replicas around the world, but only 2 exact. This one here, the other one is standing outside of Florence, Italy. Folks, there's a reason why he's behind those bushes. That's right. He is hanging out back there. He's in his birthday suit. Originally, he was sculptured over in Florence, Italy, and brought to the United States for the 1964-65 World's Fair in New York City. Later in time, Ripley's purchased them and brought them here to St. Augustine. And guess what Ripley's did with them? They put them on the sidewalk here in the front right of the trolley, facing down this intersection in front of us. Okay, folks, think about that. A 17-foot tall naked man facing down this intersection. Back then, it caused a whole lot of confusion, a whole lot of close calls, and also a whole lot of fender benders. But finally, the city played asked them to move them back off the street to keep the traffic moving smoothly. Our next stop is this white building on your right with the terracotta shingles. That's stop number 19, the San Marco Welcome Center. Inside of there, you can get discounted tickets for attractions all around town. There are souvenirs and refreshments in here, and this is where the nighttime, it's now on your left, the nighttime ghost and gravestone store is going to start after night. And this will be she developed 129 gingerbread style houses, like this white one on your right side here. Number 39 is one of the houses. And folks, look down this little street on your right. Look at all these different colored houses, shapes and sizes. And they're all made of wood. They're all Luciana's houses down there. Right here, this parking lot on your right side, look down the other end, an all white double front porch, one of our houses right there. And behind this big tree on your front right here, the periwinkle colored house, folks. Somebody had to tell me that color. I did not know that one. When I was a kid, I didn't have a periwinkle colored crayon in my box. Folks, think about that between the late 1800s and the early 1900s. She developed 129 of those gingerbread style houses, and they're scattered throughout the side streets of this neighborhood. As you notice, they were all made out of wood. Folks, it is said that 124 of them are still standing today. Folks, that is an amazing fact. Between rot, termites, fire, hurricanes, and over 100 years old, 124 of the 129 are still standing today. That is an amazing fact. Once we clear the house on your right side in a moment, you'll see our great cross on the waterfront, put there in 1965 for the 400th anniversary of Pedro Menendez and his penmanship landed there back in 1565. The cross is 208 feet tall. It is 70 tons of metal. The building to your right is the Mission Nombre de Deus, also known as the Mission in the Name of God. This is where Pedro Menendez and his penmanship landed September 8th, 1565. Yes, folks, again, they were Spanish, they were Catholic. This is the most historical stop on the tour right here, folks. As I pull in, I line up with that fountain in front of us. You see that little fountain in front of us? It now lines up with the bridge beyond it going over the water. And then it lines up with the statue of Father Lopez with his arms spread out performing mass. And then it lines up with a great cross. I'm going to go around the circle to the right. I stop on the other side at one spot. Get your cameras ready if you want to take shots. Now that I'm making the right turn, now the statue of Father Lopez comes in view. Folks, the first documented permanent parish Catholic Mass in what is now today the United States. And the trees to your front left, but when I stop over there, it'll be then your front right. Yes, there have been other individual masses before that with Ponce de Leon and his men, with DeSoto and his men over in Bradenton, and also over in Pensacola. On your right side is the Nombre de Deus Museum and Chapel. Folks, everything at this stop, inside and out, is free. Everything here is free, unless you're going to buy some other gifts. So that's the only thing it's going to cost you. That's at your discretion. Okay, get your cameras ready for the line when you're ready. If you want to do that, stop at one spot. Get those cameras ready. Okay, the river stuff's coming in about the next 30 seconds. There are 2 signs that are sticking up out of the ground on the right. The one on the right is English, the one on the left is Spanish. I'm not going to read them. I'm going to tell you the story. Folks, after Father Lopez performs that very first documented and permanent parish Catholic Mass in what's now today the United States, now the trees on your front right, him, Pedro Menendez, and all the rest of the Spanish settlers. Here's the kicker right here, folks. They celebrate the very first Thanksgiving feast with the Timucuan Indians who were already here in St. Augustine back in 1565. Folks, that's 55 years before the Pilgrims landed on Plymouth Rock. This is stop number 20 in the mission number 8. We'll talk about that Thanksgiving in a minute. You got other things to talk about first. If you exit back down to season 11. First, let's go across the water right into the trees. There's a little teeny building. It's the ancient chapel of the Lady of La Leche and the historical cemetery. And back in the woods, we cannot see from here. Okay, folks, now let's think about that. Back in 1513, when Ponce de Leon and his men landed here, folks, this tree right here in front of us then was already over 100 years old. This tree right here in front of us was waving to Ponce de Leon and his men back in 1513. Got to witness all that history. Folks, could you imagine if that tree could talk, the stories he could tell? I would love to hear some of those stories, but you can see by looking at him, he won't speak to me. But you can see by looking at him why he's called the old senator. He's very crooked and very shady. And check out the fuzzy stuff hanging down off the branches of the old senator. That stuff is called Spanish moss. It's neither Spanish nor is it moss. Folks, it's an air plant, believe it or not. It's related to the pineapple family. That's right. We'll talk more about that on the way out here. It's up number 21-year-old senator. There's your bell. If you're going to exit, back down to the left, folks. Okay, folks, on the right side of the trolley, right in front of the tree, there's a sign right there that tells you the tree is over 600 years old. The people in the back, get your cameras out. I'll creep out very slowly and get a picture of the sign. Don't put the cameras away, because look through the windshield in front of you. See that arch up ahead? You definitely want your cameras out up there. Nobody on or off. There's the bell. Please be seated. Folks, it is said that Henry Ford would stuff his earliest Model T Ford seats with Spanish moss because it was free for the taking here in the South. That's right, folks. If you ever read up on Ford someday, he was known to be a cheapskate and very frugal. But, folks, there's something about Spanish moss that Mr. Ford did not know about. That's right, folks. If you're not familiar, all Spanish moss is infested with a red bug called chiggers. Oh, no. Mr. Ford did not know that. He didn't know that. His employees did. That's right. And he waved bye-bye to those happy customers when they drove off. Oh, folks, they're very happy when they drive off. They're driving off in their very first horseless carriage. But the ones who bought the earliest Model T Fords, folks, they're not happy for very long because the chiggers and the Spanish moss on the seats, they start eating through the upholstery of the seat. In fact, as early as 1868, shortly after the Civil War. But, folks, this is also part of the ancient Timucuan Indian village of Saloy. Folks, that's the same Timucuan Indians that celebrated that Thanksgiving feast. Hear that noise? Talk about that in a minute. That's the same Timucuan Indians that celebrated that Thanksgiving feast with Pedro Menendez men, the Spanish soldiers, back at the mission grounds. Here, all the way down the mission grounds, is all part of the same complex, folks. This is an archaeological park. They do blacksmithing on the grounds. They fire cannon off every hour. Come on across here, folks. Come on across. They do a cannon fire every hour. There's a watchtower on the waterfront, a 600-foot pier on the marsh, the planetarium that I spoke about when we were on the outside of the wall. The Discovery Globe is on these grounds. There's over 50 live peacocks, the little squawk you just heard. That's one of them. They're all over the grounds. They're free to roam and they can fly. It's also the Fountain of Youth, the famous spring where the water comes out of the ground. If you go in there, folks, you can drink that water. I'll talk about that all about here. This will be stop number 22, the Fountain of Youth. As always, please wait for the bell. If you're exiting, back down as you land, folks. There we go, folks. Now, it's a very long trolley, folks. It's a very small sign. You left.